Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to the latest edition of Chopping It Up with Ramel. First of all, it's glad to be here. It's been a while since I've been here. Sorry to keep you waiting, but listen, let's get right into it. We got a very busy weekend of sports ahead of us. We're going to get into the NFL matchups. We're going to talk about predictions. I do have a question. Is the road to the Super Bowl going to go through San Francisco? Has Lamar surpassed Russell Wilson in the MVP? Who's the best team in the NBA? The rumblings in Brooklyn about Kyrie. Melo is back on the court. You have the fight with Wilder and Ortiz. Who's the front runner MVP with a quarter of a season into the season in the NBA? We got a lot to talk about, so let's just get right to it. And we're going to start off in the NFL. We had a pretty decent game last night with playoffs implications on the line. Is there a bigger Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team in the NFL than the Houston Texans? I mean, we say this every week about them. It's like they win one, lose one, occasionally win two in a row. But it's like a tale of two teams. Nevertheless, they came out on the winning side last night to take sole possession of first place in their division. But it's just, you ask, where's the consistency? Deshaun Watson, to me, is one of the bright young quarterbacks in this game. You can make a case for him being a top 15 quarterback. But his team just doesn't deliver every week for him like he needs them to. I mean, he's sitting there with a couple of great receivers over there. You got DeAndre Hopkins, Fuller the fifth. He's a good receiver. You got the guy that came over from Miami by trade. Then you got Duke Johnson in the backfield, Carlos Hyde. You got quite a bit of talent over there. I just don't know why they are so inconsistent. The Houston Texans are clearly the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of the NFL. But nevertheless, they get the win. And as I mentioned, they have sole possession of first place. So going forward, keep an eye on that because that just may be a division where if you're going to make the playoffs, you got to win your division. I don't see a wild card possibly coming out of there. I know Tennessee may have something to say about that, but I just don't see two teams coming out of that division. As well as Indianapolis may have played this year, you have to win the division to get into the playoffs there. So with that in the books, I want to talk about some upcoming matchups this weekend. Clearly, there's some good matchups. Starting out with my team, the Eagles. Seattle goes into Philly, into Lincoln Field. That should be a good game Sunday at 1 o'clock. I'm going with Philly. Some people look at me, whoa. I went through this with Green Bay. Philly won the game. I look for Philly to come up with a huge win. They've kind of been like Houston too. Win one, lose one, win one, lose one. Look for them to strap up those chin straps, put those helmets on, tie them cleats up. Look for them to get the win at home. I think Carson Wentz will play better. But this is a game that I think Doug Peterson is really holding back the Eagles. He's got to let Carson Wentz throw downfield. He cannot play that conservative game so often. He's got to air it out. He's got to open it up. I look for the Eagles to win at home. And then there's another big game right after that one. And I guess the Eagles will be watching that game shortly after. And that's Dallas and New England. Dallas is going into New England. Listen, Dallas has had a decent season. They're 6-4. Dak Prescott, he's playing well. Had Dallas be 8-2, he'd probably be in a MVP conversation. But Cowboys are 6-4, and they play who's in front of them. But I want to talk about your 6-4 team because they got 2 wins against the Giants, 1 against Miami, 1 against Washington, 1 against Detroit, and yes, they did beat my team, the Eagles. 4 of these teams is going to be picking top 5 in the draft, in the upcoming draft. Are we to be impressed by the Dallas Cowboys? Are we to be impressed by the Dallas Cowboys with really one signature win? 5 of their wins is against teams that were under 500 at the time that they played them. Should we be excited about the Dallas Cowboys 6-4 record? This is the same Cowboys that laid an egg against my New York Jets. So should we be excited about the Dallas Cowboys? Again, their wins twice against the Giants, Miami, Washington, Detroit, and yes, my Eagles. None of these teams was over 500 when they beat them. So should we be excited about the Dallas Cowboys? I don't think so. I give them credit for beating who they played. Yeah, you're supposed to. They're all NFL players. I get that. A win against New England would be impressive. But I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. Because their record indicate they only beat teams that's under 500. So should we be excited about the Cowboys? I think not. So I see a loss coming up this weekend, Sunday against the Patriots. I see a win by Philly, and then for the division, they'll be tied. And when they play in Week 16, there will be strong playoff implications for the division. But why should we be excited about the Cowboys when they haven't beat a team all year that was over 500? I think not. Moving right along, is the road to the Super Bowl through San Francisco? You couldn't ask me this question before the season started. No way, no how. But at 9-1, their only loss to the Seattle Seahawks, I think that the road can go through San Francisco. Let's put it this way. If you're in the NFC and you're going to go to the Super Bowl, you're going to have to at some point match up against San Francisco. And I think San Francisco will be very effective going towards the end of the season. I believe their confidence is high. I believe that they believe they can win. The coach is looking like coach of the year. Their defense is tremendous. They probably have the defensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year. And Bosa, this is a strong team. And, the fact that I don't think anybody had them on the radar to be this good and to be this great, I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco is playing in the Super Bowl. But there's no doubt in my mind that I do believe that you're going to have to play San Francisco in an NFC Conference Championship to get to the Super Bowl. I don't see it no other way. And I'm convinced. And I'll be the first one to tell you, when the season started, I was like, who's these guys? I thought Richard Sherman was on the washed up side, on the downside. And to my surprise, he's part of a defense that's been rejuvenated. They've been drafted number 1 draft picks for the last 5 years on that defensive side, on that line, and it is paying off. And, Jimmy Garoppolo, if you don't know who he is, let me introduce you to him. He only has like 3 career losses in 4 or 5 seasons that he's played. He's only lost 3 games. Now, he's not on nobody's radar for a top 15 quarterback in the league. No, I'm not insinuating that. But if there's not a better game manager in the business as we speak right now than Jimmy Garoppolo, please introduce him to me. Introduce him to me, because this guy here, all he does is win. My good buddy Darren Wood, if you know who he is, that's the minister. We co-host a show called Deep Hoops. He's commenting about his Dallas Cowboys. I know I struck a nerve with him. He's suggesting that it's going to go NFC Championship, Dallas and San Francisco. I don't see that happening. But, that's his team. He's fan is short for fanatic, so I expect that and I accept that, but I don't see that happening. But the road to the Super Bowl in the NFC will go through San Francisco. San Francisco right now is playing one heck of a ball. And they got their hands full come Sunday night. Green Bay comes to town. And I have San Francisco beating Green Bay. And I have San Francisco beating Green Bay. I'm going to switch it along now. Has Lamar Jackson surpassed Russell Wilson for the MVP? Let me tell you something about Lamar Jackson. First of all, if you don't know who he is now, get used to him because he is the future. This guy here is the future. He's a dual threat. He plays with a high IQ and a high motor. And he's got a defense that's rejuvenated, and they're in Baltimore. They're giving him maybe half the field to work with, and he's taking advantage of it. Lamar Jackson's had 2 perfect rating games so far. What he's putting up, his numbers is just unbelievable what he's putting up. I'm a Russell Wilson fan. And I still think Russell Wilson is ahead of the MVP voter because of stats. Russell Wilson has 23 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. All right, he has a passer rating of 114. Okay, he does have 3 rushing touchdowns. He did knock off. He gave San Francisco their only loss. All right, Lamar Jackson. He's thrown for 2,258 yards. Wilson is thrown for 2,700 yards. Lamar Jackson has 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But, oh, by the way, he's got over 750 yards in rushing. And he's also ran in for 8 touchdowns. Okay? He, like Russell Wilson gave San Francisco their only loss, he gave New England their only loss. Here's where it gets interesting, though. Lamar beat Russell Wilson head-to-head. Baltimore beat Seattle. So, on that note, if we're looking at head-to-head, you can make the argument that Lamar Jackson has surpassed Russell Wilson. I'm going to give the nod to Russell Wilson, but it's a very close nod because I just think those two are neck and neck at this point here. And I tell you what, Lamar Jackson and Baltimore, their future is bright. When the season started, I thought it would be the Andy Reid Bowl, Kansas City versus the Philadelphia Eagles. We might see the repeat bowl. Baltimore Ravens versus San Francisco 49ers. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. You're looking at possibly both candidates, teams, head coaches being coach of the year in their prospective conferences. Because I do think Kyle Shanahan is worthy of the award, and Harbaugh is worthy of it as well. So we're going to move right along, and we're going to get to the NBA. Listen, the NBA is exciting. They talking about ratings are down and this and that. Maybe they are. I don't know. I don't have a report on it. I know one thing. I have League Pass. I get to watch basketball every night if I choose. There's some great matchups in. The NBA is in great hands. They're doing a fantastic job. I tell you what. There's only about 5 teams that can really win the championship right now as we speak. There's only about 5. 5 teams that can really win the championship. The Lakers, the Clippers, Milwaukee, Philly, possibly Houston, possibly Boston. That's about it. But until we get to that point, we're going to have some intriguing basketball. Because on every any given night, a non-playoff team or a bottom feeder can push a top feeder or a playoff team. I mean, it's not that that team is that close as far as talent or whatever. It's just that there's a lot of good coaching in the league this year. And there's just a lot of talent, a plethora of talent in the NBA. I mean, it's just outstanding what we're watching on any given night. And I'm going to tell you something. The league has been looking for the next Larry Bird ever since Larry Bird left the game. And they've never found that guy. And what I mean by that Larry Bird guy, that non-African American player that you can market, you can almost put him at the head of the group. You know, just what Larry Bird was. Dirk Nowitzki was an outstanding ball player. Many people don't realize this. He's number 6 all time in the scoring list. Outstanding. But he never was in that conversation of a Larry Bird. But Luka Doncic is here, guys. And he's not going nowhere. Nowhere. And he is currently an MVP front runner right now. The kid is averaging an impressive 29.9 points, 10.6 rebounds, second in the league in assists behind LeBron James at 9.1. And this is just his second season. That's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal. Luka Doncic can make the case in about 3 to 4 years that he will be the best player in the NBA. There's going to be a lot of people that have something to say about that. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying that is a definite. But at the rate he's going from rookie of the year to MVP candidate, if his team, if they can surround him with a team, this guy is going to be someone that we're going to recognize for years to come because he's a player. I mean, what he's doing at 20 years old, 19 years old is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. He's one of the most fun players to watch on any given night. And if Porzingis can ever get his legs together, and I know he's been out for a year, and he can get some consistency, and maybe you can get something out of Tim Hardaway Jr., Dallas could be a major threat in the later part of this season. But I think they're a third player away who could give them some consistent numbers. It don't have to be large numbers, 20 points a game, 25 points a game. They just need somebody that they know when they come out there, they're going to give them 18 points, 17 points on any given night. It's just going to happen. But Luka Doncic is here to stay. And of the 4 front runners for MVP, he's up there with Giannis, James Harden, LeBron James, and then it's Luka. And I'm not saying that's the order. I'm just putting the 4 together. And whether you like James Harden or not, the guy does something different every year. He seems to find a way to wow us and thrill us every single year. Right now, he's averaging an impressive 38 points a game, along with 7.5 assists. He may be a one-on-one player, but he's also accumulating assists. And I think it's harder for him to accumulate assists than most people because he's passing the ball with maybe 3 seconds left on the clock, and you have to hoist it up. But at the end of the day, that's impressive. What James Harden is doing year after year is impressive. Now, like most of us, we want to see it done in the playoffs and get to the championship rounds. And on top of that, he plays every game. And then there's LeBron in his 17th year. What he's doing is phenomenal. He's leading the league in assists at 11 a game. He's averaging 25 points, 7.9 rebounds a game. He's having a stellar season. He probably benefited from not being in the playoffs last year, having some extended rest, a little bit longer than normal. But what he's doing is phenomenal. Don't take it away from him. And then you have Giannis. That is also 30 points a game, 14 and a half rebounds a game, 6 assists. Unbelievable. Now, I think many people have LeBron as their front runner, but I don't. And this is not hate. The reason why I don't have him as my front runner is because of the 4 players that I mentioned, he's playing with a sidekick that might be better than just about everybody else that I mentioned. So, that, for me, that takes away a little bit. Anthony Davis may be a top 10 MVP candidate himself. So that takes away from it for me a little bit. Giannis lost Middleton and hasn't skipped a beat. At this point here, Doncic don't have nobody. Porzingis has not shown back-to-back games yet. So really, Doncic is playing with a team of nobody who's worthy of all-star considerations. Harden is playing with Westbrook. Some thought that Westbrook would hold him back. He only got better. He's only producing more. So for me, if I had an order, I'd probably go Harden, Giannis, and why Giannis second? Because I think Giannis plays defense better than all 4 of them. And then I'm going to go Luka, and then I'm going to go LeBron. Now, if you take LeBron off of this team, they're not in the playoffs. They're not. You take Giannis off this team, they're not in the playoffs either. They're probably deep in the lottery. You take James Harden off this team, Westbrook might be able to try to get them to the playoffs, but I think they're short of the playoffs as well. You take Doncic off of Dallas, we're not even talking about Dallas. They're easily the number 1 pick in the draft. They'll have that. So I got to give a lot of credit to Luka Doncic. I got him third behind Giannis, and then LeBron coming in at 4th. And only because LeBron has probably the second best player on the team, Anthony Davis, and he's probably better than the rest of them. So that's my order for the MVP. I'll repeat it again. I go Harden, Giannis, Luka, and LeBron. Here's something that's been on my mind for a while, and I want to share with you. And if you're out there, please chime in. Should Draymond Green get a pass, or is this guy truly a fraud? And I want to say this to say that I look at Draymond Green. He's been on a 5 consecutive championship team run where they went to the finals 5 years in a row. You know, he's had great moments. Take nothing away from him. He probably was the heart and soul of the team. But my question to you all, is he a fraud? You know, I always felt that his success would only be successful in Golden State. Could he play anywhere else? Sure. Would he have the same success? No. And he probably realized that, and that's why he didn't even hit the free agency market. He didn't even hit free agency. He just automatically re-signed and took a pay cut because he knows that his game does not translate everywhere because he had to be with Hall of Famers. And I bring this up because when you're on a squad that's been to 5 consecutive championships, so what, you lose Durant. All right, let's move on. Klay Thompson is hurt. We know that going into the season. Unfortunately, Curry gets hurt. That wasn't expected. But Draymond, you're a leader on those teams. Now you got youngsters that probably couldn't wait to come to Golden State to play alongside of you, and you're a no-show for the season? Are you a fraud? Or did we just overestimate your talent, over-evaluated your talent when you were playing among future Hall of Famers or some of the greatest shooters and scorers this league has ever seen? You should be stepping up. You should be showing the same leadership, even more so than you did with those players, now with these guys here. But you're a no-show. Complaining to the refs, man, show some leadership. For crying out loud, this is Golden State. You went to 5 consecutive championships. And now you look like you're going to have the #1 pick in the draft. And people had you, Draymond Green, pegged in as a Hall of Famer? How about a Hall of Shamer? You are a fraud if I haven't seen one. Show some leadership. Put some pep in these guys' step. Give them a reason to believe. Not just sit back and rest your laurels on you got to pass because Clay is out for the season. Curry broke his hand. Durant moved on. Show some leadership. Have some pride. Draymond, you get the Fraud of the Year award. Moving right along. To no surprise, there's rumblings in New York in Brooklyn, I should say, about Kyrie Irving. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? Kyrie Irving, there's rumblings. Now, the word is out that there's rumblings, but no one has really said what is being said other than I hear he's moody. Listen, there's a lot of Brooklyn fans out there. When you're looking at you lose Russell and you get Kyrie, you're getting the better of the two players. But the difference between Kyrie, the best of Kyrie is not when Kyrie is the best player on the team. Because when Kyrie is the best player on the team, he plays like he's the best player on the team, and sometimes he can alienate his team. What you're seeing of Kyrie this year is not what you're going to see next year when Kevin Durant plays, because Kevin Durant, he's going to have the respect for Kevin Durant. Kyrie doesn't need to be the best player on the team. Same thing goes for Russell Westbrook. These guys got similar motives. When they're the best on the team, everything is going to go through them, and they often alienate them team, and it becomes them. But as we speak right now, Kyrie Irving is not a better fit for this team alone than Russell. I watched the games. Dinwiddie, who I thought was a surprise star last year a surprise player, I should say, for Brooklyn. I'm watching him carefully, and in no time, he's beginning to play like Kyrie Irving. And it's funny, I don't think they've had a 2-game winning streak all year until Kyrie got hurt. Listen, this is not that Kyrie Irving is not a top player in this game. He's clearly a top 15 player in this game, and any team would love to have him. I'm just saying to you all that the best of Kyrie Irving is when Kyrie Irving is not your best player. We've seen it in Boston. We can blame Brad Stevens a little bit of that. But at the end of the day, look at the difference of Boston and Brooklyn. Brooklyn loses Russell. They get Kyrie. They don't get no better. Boston loses a starting 5. They lose Kyrie, Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, Al Horford, and Aaron Baines. That's a starting 5, guys. And all they get in return is Kemba Walker and late first round, second round draft picks. And oh, by the way, they're second in the East. Second in the East. with an 11-3 record. So I'm not surprised by the rumblings of Kyrie, but it'll be temporarily only because when Kevin Durant comes back next season, you'll see. So for you Brooklyn fans, I don't think you'll be any better than what you was last year. You should make the playoffs, but you're not going to be any better than 6. You may even be 7th or 8th. But you'll make the playoffs. Good luck on that. But the NBA is back in good standings with me, folks, because my man, Carmelo Anthony, is in an NBA uniform. I couldn't be any happier for him. Listen, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you he's going to be an MVP candidate. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you he's going to be a most improved player candidate. I'm not. But what I am going to sit here and tell you is that there was not 450 players in this league better than Carmelo Anthony where he did not deserve a roster. I will tell you this. There's not 150 players starting in this league better than Carmelo Anthony. I am not going to tell you that either. There's not 100 players better than Carmelo Anthony. I'm not going to tell you that either. But I tell you this man belonged in the NBA for this reason and this reason only. Never mind his talent. His talent speaks for itself. But he's one of the game's greatest players to ever play this game. He's probably somewhere in the range of 50 through 70 to ever step on this court. But he should have been able to walk away from the game on his own merit, on his own account, on his own accord. Not because of some one-trick pony, Dan Tony, decided he wasn't a fit for the team. And after he was averaging 13.4 a game, coming off the bench, buying into the system. I'm glad to see Portland took a chance on him. And in his first 2 games, to my surprise, I wouldn't have done it if I was Portland, but they might be running on desperation. I wouldn't have started him because he's still got to get his legs together. Working out at Lifetime and LA Fitness for 4 hours a day is not equivalent to a 4-quarter game. But with that said, he's averaging 15 points a game in 2 games with like about 25 minutes. Listen, he's still got a long ways to go to be even remotely close to the Carmelo we saw last. But the one thing, and we seen this as kids growing up, there was always somebody 50 years old or older shooting down court that, couldn't run with us when we were 16, 17 years old. But if we played horse, we wasn't beating them. One thing about when you have talent or you have skills, it never leaves. Skills never leave. We're all up in age now. We can still ride a bicycle and we don't do it as often. When you have the skills, it never leaves. And what we're seeing of Carmelo, his skills has not left him. Yeah, his legs is not there from not playing over a year. But give him a week or 2. And guess what? He's out there on the court without Portland's best player, which is their facilitator, their point guard, which is Dame Lillard. Once he gets out there, the game is going to be a little easier for him. And he'll get some better looks, get the ball in better position, and he's going to be a factor. Glad to see him back in the NBA. If he doesn't play beyond this year, I'm cool with that. He just deserves to walk out on his own accord, his own account, and on his merit and his terms, not because of a one-trick pony such as Mike D'Antoni. Kudos to Carmelo for staying in shape and being persistent. 2 more topics I want to talk about before I wrap up. And one is Kaepernick. There's a lot going on and a lot being said about Kaepernick. I'm going to sum it up like this. First of all, what they're doing to Kaepernick is unconstitutional, at least in my mind. It's simply unfair. Unfair. This man has committed no crimes. No crimes at all. He's committed no crimes. He hasn't harmed nobody. There's no speculations of any ill-mannered behavior on his behalf. He is a gentleman that has been blackballed. Moreover, how often? This is the question I have. Because some people say, he did it to himself. He shouldn't have changed the venue of the showcase. He should have just went up to Flowery Branch to the Atlanta Falcons facility and conduct the program. I got a question for you all. How often does an unemployed quarterback have a showcase? I want to know. There's unemployed quarterbacks that are doing what you and I are doing on a regular throughout the NFL season that gets a phone call or text that says, come down and report to our camp. We want to try you out. We need a quarterback. Third string, second string, whatever it might be. But no, this guy has to have a showcase and treat it like he's some slave on an auction block in the late 1800s, early 1800s, late 1700s. If you think I'm lying, he showed up to the showcase at his disclosed area with a Kunta Kinte t-shirt on. Does that tell you something? How he felt about that? I want y'all to think about that. There's quarterbacks that's sitting up there in booths doing analyst work. There's some that's doing high school coaching, whatever it might be. They get a phone call or a text. Hey, man, the quarterback is down. We want you to come report. You can still throw. You can be our third string quarterback. But this guy has to get a showcase in the 11th week of the season when week 1, we've had quarterbacks. Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, Roethlisberger went down for the season. Nick Foles went out. Fitzgerald went out. The Jets in week 5 was on their fourth string quarterback. And that's just a few of the quarterbacks that were hurt. And then you're going to schedule a showcase for week 11 when nearly 70% of the teams were eliminated from playoffs. But you're doing him a favor and you're speaking bad on him because he didn't show up at the area. Man, please, knock it off with that. Knock it off with that. The guy deserves better than that. Better than that. There's 32 teams in the league. You can't tell me there's 32 starting quarterbacks that's better than Kaepernick. There's 32 teams in the league. Some teams have second and third string quarterbacks on their roster. So you telling me there's over 64 quarterbacks in the league right now better than Kaepernick? Go ahead with that. The NFL is a fraud for this behavior that they have towards Kaepernick. It's a fraud. Kaepernick, again, committed no crime. Kaepernick, his name is not associated with no ill behavior whatsoever. Not even a traffic stop. Not even a DUI. Nothing. And he has to have a showcase? Guy's in the best of his shape, in the best shape of his life. But meanwhile, quarterbacks are doing whatever unemployed quarterbacks are doing whatever. And all they get is a phone call or a text. And he's got to have a showcase in week 11 when 70% of the teams have been eliminated from the playoffs. Treating him like a slave on an auction block. You think I'm lying? Go ask him. He showed up with a Kunta Kinte t-shirt on. That's how he felt. And I felt that. I feel how he feels. He doesn't deserve that. Josh Gordon, he can't even take a piss test without it being dirty, and he gets to play every year. Every year. Antonio Brown, his name has been dragged through the mud all year long And the Patriots is thinking about bringing him back. But yet this guy, Kaepernick, who's doing some good for the community, has not committed no crime. His name has never been affiliated with anything that's negative, but he has to have a showcase. Man, go ahead with that, man. Yeah, to finish up, Saturday night, if you're a boxing fan, tune in. You got Wilder Ortiz Part 2. It should be fun. It should be great. I think Wilder will pull off the win once again. I hope he's learned from the last fight against Ortiz, because Ortiz did sting him. Ortiz is capable of knocking him out. It's just that when he did hit Wilder, Ortiz didn't have much left to follow up on it, and eventually Wilder finished him off. But let me tell you, Ortiz is no bum. Ortiz can fight. He's he's an old school heavyweight. Don't have the quickness that Wilder had. Wilder's like an athlete. Most boxers are not really athletes. They're just boxers. Wilder probably could play ball in the NBA or play college basketball. I mean, he's like 6'7". He's in excellent shape. He's athletic. He's going to be quicker than Ortiz. He's going to be able to snap that jab out there. Should be a good fight. Ortiz is a smart fighter. He's a smart fighter. It could go either way, but I think Wilder pulls off the win. But that's going to do it for me. I appreciate all of those who were tuning in and chiming in. I'll catch up with y'all soon. Peace and blessings to you all. Just chopping it up with Ramel.